I want to give you a brief introduction to the assignment that you'll be working on as a team. You'll be assigned to a team. Your team will likely have about 6 members, and your team will be conducting an interview with somebody who's applying to be a faculty member at LaSalle, and I'll be playing that role. I'm going to show you 2 documents during this brief session. Both of these are available on Canvas, and they'll be really important in terms of doing this project correctly. So the first document is a document that is a template for structured interviews. And we're looking at the cover page of that now. At the bottom of the cover page, each one of you will write my name. I'm the candidate, so you'll write Jim Smither. You'll write the date during which your team interviews me. You'll be interviewing me for a position in a faculty member in the School of Business. And you'll also write your name, the interviewer. Each of you will have one of these packets. Each of you will have one of these interview templates. So you'll need to make sure that you've got as many templates as there are members on your team. Now I'm going to skip ahead a little bit and then jump backwards, okay? So I'm going to skip ahead, and what I want to do is show you what a page might look like. So the first thing on this page at the top is it says KSA, or KSA grouping. And what that means, and it's important to remember this, really important to remember this, is you're telling yourself, you're reminding yourself, what is the knowledge, skill, ability, KSA, or activity, again, KSA, what is the knowledge, skill, ability, or activity that this question is trying to assess? So remember, you're going to be trying to assess the candidate's knowledge, skill, or ability, or ability to perform a particular activity on the job, and all of that's going to come from your job description. I'll show you that in a bit. And so you need to write at the top of this page, what is the KSA that you're trying to assess with this question? The next space says lead question. And in that space, you will have typed the question that you're going to ask me. Now, you'll be asking me at least 4 questions during this interview process. And so you'll have 4 different pages that look like this. Each one will contain a specific question that you'll be asking during the interview. So it says lead question, and where it says lead question, that's where you type the question that you'll be asking about that particular knowledge, skill, ability, or activity. Underneath that, if you want to write some simple follow-up probes that you could ask, something like, oh, can you expand on that, or tell me a bit more detail, or can you give me an example? If you have some follow-up probes, you can write them where it says probes. But the main question should be right next to where it says lead question. Right, so far we'll know here's the knowledge, skill, ability, or activity that you're trying to assess, and then you've typed the question that your team has created to assess that KSA, and you've typed any follow-up probes. The space that says notes is where you will handwrite notes during the interview. You'll be taking notes during the interview. So that's what you'll be, that's where your notes are going to be. That's important. That'll be part of something I'm grading as well as the contents of your questions. And then finally, after the interview is done, you're going to rate my answers to that question on a 1 to 5 scale, where 1 is low and 5 is excellent and 3 is kind of typical. It's okay. It's not great. It's not bad. And you're going to jot down some examples of what would be, or some criteria that would be indicative of a poor response, a response that should receive a low rating. So you'll literally type those. They'll be there. and you'll be typing those. So here's an example of poor responses to that particular question. And to the right of that, you'll type examples of what are really good responses to that particular question. Now, so that's what each page of your template will look like. And you'll see that this booklet, the interview template booklet, has multiple pages that are like this. And your team is going to walk in to the interview with me playing the candidate, where you'll have 4 of these pages where you'll have a KSA at the top and a question underneath it. Okay? And at the bottom of the page, you'll have your criteria for what's a poor response, what's a really good response. Okay? So all that's going to be done before you get in the room with me. All you'll need to do during the interview itself is ask the questions and take notes. Okay? Now, I'm scrolling up again in this document, and to show you that there are kind of an introduction, a couple of pages here that describe how to conduct the interview. What to say when the candidate first walks in the room. What should you be saying to me? What should you say before you even start with the first question to kind of literally set the stage for the interview? So you don't jump right into the interview. There's a few things you do before you get to the interview, and all of those are described on this page here, instructions for conducting the interview. So that's all there, okay? And so it'll be important that your team reads that and understands it. Again, so quick reminder, you're going to create 4 questions, your team is. Each question will be designed to assess a particular knowledge, skill, ability, or activity associated with being a faculty member at LaSalle. You'll list the question that you're going to ask me in order to assess that specific KSA, as well as any follow-up probes. And you'll list examples or criteria of a poor response and examples of criteria that would be an excellent response. And you'll do that for 4 different questions that you're going to create. Now, I want to go one step further and show you another document. This document is called the Structured Interview Assignment. It is also on Canvas, and it briefly describes the assignment and provides some really important information for you. Okay? So the team has to develop a structured interview for the position of a faculty member at LaSalle. We're going to imagine that this faculty member is applying for a job in the business school, and you might want to imagine, because I'm the person playing the candidate, that the person's applying for a job in the management department. And you're going to be using the job description that's part of the document you're looking at now. I'll show you that in a minute, to guide the way you create your interview questions. So, as I've already said, your team is going to create 4 structured interview questions. Okay? Each of those questions has to assess a different job task or activity, or knowledge, skill, ability, activity, or something else related to the job. Now, you're going to have to create 4 questions. At least 1 question has to be for each of the 3 primary types of questions. In other words, you're going to write 1 situational question, 1 past behavior question, 1 job knowledge question, and the 4th question that you're going to write can be either a situational question or a past behavior question or a job knowledge question. There's the only kinds of questions that you can use. So your team's going to create 4 questions. 1 is situational, 1 is past behavior, and 1 is job knowledge. And the 4th can be either situational, past behavior, or job knowledge. Remember, for each of those questions at the top of the page on the template, you're going to write the job task or activity or the knowledge, skill, ability, or activity that the question is intended to assess. You're also going to write the lead question. What's the question you're going to ask? Any follow-up probes that you're permitted to ask. And at the bottom of the page, what are your criteria? What would you see me say that would lead you to think that's a poor response, or an average response, or an excellent response? Again, all this information is going to be typed in an interview template. You will all have the exact same template when you walk into the room. One note, the template includes a page for what's called a realistic job preview. Realistic job previews are often used in professionally developed structured interviews. We are not going to be doing that here. Therefore, you do not need to do the realistic job preview page in the interview template. As I said, you can assume that the position I'm applying for is to teach courses in, say, management, human resource management, organizational behavior, leadership, etc. Now, in order to do this, you're going to have a good study of the job, right? Because we said it's really important that all interview questions are linked to something that's directly job related. So on the pages that follow, what you're going to see are a detailed job description that's been created concerning a faculty member at LaSalle. It begins with a general description of the job of being a faculty member at LaSalle. This structure should look very similar to you, because it's going to be very similar to what you used in creating a job description. Then, based off of a detailed study, there's a listing of all the different tasks that faculty members do. It's a long list because faculty members do many things. This here begins with a list of all the teaching tasks or activities that faculty members do. Then there's a list of all the research, the scholarly research tasks and activities that faculty members do. And then there's a list of all the other kind of service activities that faculty members do for the university. And finally, a list of the partnership or professional activities that faculty members do for the university. Following that is a list of what knowledge, skills, and abilities somebody needs to do this job well. As you can see, it says, well, you need to have a doctoral degree in a relevant field. That's strongly preferred. Sometimes, it's uncommon, but sometimes you can have a master's degree plus a lot of experience. You should have 2 to 4 years of teaching experience, evidence of scholarly productivity, such as presentations or papers that have been published, and some applied experience is definitely preferred. Somebody who's worked in business or some other field. And then there's a long list of all the knowledges, skills, and abilities that we expect faculty members to have. You can see it's quite lengthy. So your team is going to be using, right, this document here, this job study. So it's going to say, hey, we've got a ton of teaching tasks and activities, a ton of research tasks and activities, service tasks and activities, partnership and professional activities, and then a long list of knowledge, skills, and abilities that faculty members are expected to have. Each question that you write, remember your team is going to create 4 questions. Each one that you write should be designed to assess one of these particular tasks, knowledge, skills, or abilities. So that's the basic nature of the assignment. If you have questions about it, we'll be able to talk about those in class, and I'll give you a little bit of time in class to work as a team on putting this together. And then we'll set up some times when your team can meet with me, which will take about 30 minutes for you to conduct this interview process. If you have any questions, you can send me an email or talk to me in class. And again, we'll have a chance to review some of this material when we get to class. Thanks for listening, and I hope you find this information as a helpful way to introduce the assignment.